Hi, folks. My name is Clea and I'm an assistant professor with Washington State University. I sure wish that I could be in person with you all at the International Conference of Food Studies in New York this year, but I guess this is a second best option. I'm just going to do a quick lightning round presentation to give you an overview, just a taste really, of the work that myself and my colleagues at Washington State University Extension are doing in our region to promote food access and build community food systems. So I'll share my screen and begin my slideshow. So my talk today is called Addressing Rural Food Insecurity on the Olympic and Kitsap Peninsulas, Washington, a practitioner's lens on equitable access. And I'm presenting along with my colleagues, Laura Ryser and Karlena Brailey. We are faculty at Washington State University and we work in cooperative extension. So for those of you who aren't familiar with cooperative extension, it's part of the land grant university mission. Washington State University is a land grant university. And what this means is that there are offices all over the state, extension offices that are extensions literally of the Pullman campus, where you have faculty and staff of the university working in communities on across a bunch of different sectors. And I work in food systems, as do my colleagues Laura and Karlena, and we'll be talking about our work today. So just as a side note, there are colleges and universities that are land grant based all across the United States. And so if you're working in food systems and food studies in the United States and aren't engaged with your land grant system and the cooperative extension system, I encourage you to reach out to your nearest land grant university because there's many extension professionals working in food studies across the country in extension and could provide valuable partnerships and resources. So this is a view of the North Olympic Peninsula, the region that we work in. The North Olympic Peninsula is in Washington State. You can see the county that I work in is highlighted in green here. It's called Clallam County. Both Washington State and Clallam County are in the northwestmost corner of the continental United States. Here on the peninsula, we are bounded to the west by the Pacific Ocean, to the north by the Strait of Juan de Fuca, that's Canada, just to the north of us, Vancouver Island, and to the east is the Puget Sound. Just off the map to the east here, about 2 hours from where we live, is the large metropolitan area of Seattle and its surroundings. But the peninsula itself is a very rural and in many ways isolated place. You have to take a bridge or a ferry to get here. The entire middle part of the peninsula is a national park. There are 5 tribes here on the peninsula that we work closely with in our extension work: the Hoh tribe, the Quileute tribe, the Makah tribe, the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe, and the Jamestown Sklallam tribe. It's a great place to work with a national park, with miles of coastland, with lots of different microclimates that farmers face in this work. Speaking of farms, here's a little overview of the demographics of farmers in our area. And in a nutshell, we work with a lot of really small farms, highly diversified small farms, usually 40 acres or less. 80% of which, 80% of the farms in this area make less than $10,000 annually in farm-related income. Most have obviously off-farm jobs and do farming as secondary income related to their household. and even the handful of farms that we work with that are big in our area or over $250,000 in annual income are really small by any national measure. So we work with small, local, highly diversified, family-owned farms. Another bit about the demographics in our area, many of the communities in this region qualifies as low access communities according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Atlas, Research Atlas. This is a map showing the low access census tracts in our area, in which at least a third of the population of those tracts live either a mile in small urban areas or 10 miles in more rural areas from a grocery store. Take this data with a grain of salt, however, because you can see that the Makah Indian Reservation here in the northwest corner is not coming up as low access according to the map, but we know many community members in that community who tell us that they regularly travel 2 hours one way to the nearest town, which is Port Angeles, or even further to another town called Squim. That's 2 hours one way to stores like Costco or Walmart, where they can get more affordable food or produce that's fresher. So I would definitely qualify this community as low access as well, as are many of the areas in this region. So what I'm going to talk about today is just give you a quick overview of the role that we in cooperative extension playing in really connecting the dots between the helping to sustain small farms in our area, while also helping to connect people in our communities in need of food. So really connecting the dots between supporting local farms and providing people with highly nutritious, locally grown, oftentimes organic food. So extension plays a unique role in this food systems work because we literally, through our work, touch every aspect of the food system, from working with farmers directly on their production issues, all the way through the processing and distribution and marketing of those products, to the consumption, which I'll be talking about today. That's the food access component of it, and even a lot of work in waste recovery, which I'm not going to touch on today. So when it comes to the sort of small farms side and the production side of the food system, we work closely with farmers. We provide workshops and clinics on a whole variety of topics. We do farm to table events to connect farmers with local buyers or regional buyers. We work on farmland succession issues. We do economic analysis projects to look at investing in infrastructure in the area to promote small farms. On the consumption side of the wheel, we do a lot of work in food security and food access. That's what I'll be focusing a little bit more in detail on today. So to start off, one of the key ways that we do that in promoting food access in our communities is through our really robust gleaning program. We have about a network of 300 volunteers in the community that glean community gardens, they glean farms, but mostly they glean private residences. In this highly rural area, we have a lot of households that are on remnant orchards and have more than one fruit tree that the homeowners can't really handle the excess amount of produce that comes off of them. So our gleaning volunteers go in and pick up this excess produce and deliver it to food banks and food pantries all around the region. On any given year, we'll average between 40 and 70,000 pounds of produce that are distributed to food access sites through the county. One of the ways in which we get volunteers to engage in our programming is that we welcome them to take a portion of the gleaned produce for themselves and their neighbors, while also distributing some of it to food banks and food pantries. Volunteers glean around 25 different types of produce, anything from apples and pears to celery, potatoes, blueberries. In fact, our gleaning program has been so successful that oftentimes during harvest time, around August through October, food banks are overwhelmed by the amount of produce that's coming in through our gleaning program. And so we have taken the next step, which is organizing volunteers to do processing events where we turn this produce into more shelf-stable products that can be utilized throughout the year instead of being highly perishable. So this is an example of our applesauce project. We also run a farm to food pantry program. It's with dollars that we get through the Washington State Department of Agriculture. And we contract with a couple of small farms in our area to provide product to the food bank. So we pay the farmers to provide product to the food banks. What's unique about this program is that we're talking about minuscule amounts of dollars for our local economy. For example, each contract is only about $2,000, which is a small amount of money in this area for farms. But for these farms, which are really at the nano scale, even that small amount of money, something like $500 to $2,000, can be the difference for a farm in whether or not they make it through this season. So we really look at this farm to food pantry program as an incubator program. We're providing a little bit of extra security to farms to help them get through the season, to help them be familiar with a wholesale contract that's really low risk versus entering right into a high volume contract with a restaurant or an institution where they may not have that capacity yet. So this is a way to help farms slowly scale up through a low risk contract situation. What we've seen from this work over the years is that we're seeing, even though it's small amounts of money and it's volunteer labor, we're beginning to see increasing impacts and benefits around the food system. Since we started these programs back in 2015, we have seen a steady increase in the amount of purchasing that food banks are doing out of their own budgets and own operating dollars for local farms. So in other words, food banks, their boards and their staff have seen the benefits for their clients to have fresh local produce coming into their food banks, such that they have started to invest their own money in purchasing directly from farms and having consistency with farm purchasing year after year. And again, this really benefits these very small scale family farms in our area. Another thing that we've been doing that's been successful in the last couple of years is the creation of little free pantries around the area. You're probably familiar with the concept of little free libraries that have been popping up in communities all around the world. Well, we've taken that concept and created a similar kind of situation, only it's a place where people can go for free access for food. So community members come and donate food to this kiosk. It's usually non-perishables in the forms of canned goods, but it can also be fresh local produce from their gardens, or gleaners will distribute it at these little pantries. And then people are just from the community are free to come in and get what they need and take what they need. This is a picture of one of our Vista volunteers, Benji, standing next to a free pantry he helped to organize, and he's holding a cookbook. We stocked a bunch of these free pantries with a cookbook on eating on a budget. So it's been a really fun way for various community organizations to get involved in this food access work. They sponsor a kiosk, they pay for the materials, their workers donate the labor to help put it up, and then it becomes a resource for the community. So just a quick lightning round on some of the little projects that we're doing to increase the connection between sustainable local small scale farms and providing people in our community with the food that they need. So If you want to exchange notes on what you're doing around rural food justice or have any questions about some of the programs we're running or some of our other work, please reach out and contact us. We would love to talk to you. Thanks so much for listening.